Lindsey Jones. I found this name in my records that I obtained from an MRI scan I had done on August 15, 2019. Saint Vincent's, Trussville. And this MRI facility, it was located in this building. It's 7201 Happy Hollow Road, Trussville, Alabama 35173. And this is off of Deerfoot Parkway, Trussville, Alabama, USA. And here I was referred by nurse Frankie James Crumb from Northside Medical Associates, and they're located in the same building at the same address. Now known as Complete Health, owned by Pharaoh's Capital. So if you want to know about my symptoms and everything that happened to me, please go see my YouTube channel. This is My Medical Nightmare on YouTube. I have over 10 hours of video there. So in 2018, I believe I broke the underside of my skull. This was a basilar skull injury. And a pebble-sized piece of bone broke off the underside of my skull. I had CSF fluid. That's the fluid inside your skull between your brain and the bone. This leaked out of this hole into a wound in my upper neck beneath my skull. And I went around to many hospitals and doctors to try to get this thing diagnosed and treated. I had very little luck. Now, I believe I may have been a victim of patient dumping. And in the hospitals, this is a violation of MTALA. This is United States federal law, and this says that if you're a patient going to a hospital in the United States of America, the hospital is obligated to treat you based on your injuries. My experience is the hospitals would regularly misdiagnose me to circumvent complying with this law. And this is an extremely common practice, but it's illegal nonetheless. I didn't have insurance or job, an ability to pay, and I think this had something to do with how I was treated. So I got to Northside Medical Associates, and I was referred to this MRI. So on August 15th, I went into this facility, and I had the scan done. There's a reception waiting area. You fill out some paperwork. You go back into the back. They have a couple different MRI machines in there. The woman who ran the machine and attended to me, this is Lindsey Jones. And her name appears several times in the records I got from this place later on. And yeah, I've been in several MRI machines. I'll just mention this. The technicians who work the MRI machines, if you do this for a job, if you employ people to do this for your medical practice, you need to hire people who are more attentive to the needs of the injured who are having the scans done. Because this woman, Lindsey Jones, she did not take into consideration my comfort to a very large degree. If you're going to have a scan done in these machines, like a head scan or something, you may have a very serious injury of your head. And I found, I had to lay back in this thing, very uncomfortable. My head laid lower than the flat plane of the rest of my body. And this is extremely uncomfortable, especially if you take into account the injury that I had. Okay? And when I brought up, I asked them if I could have some kind of a pillow, head cushion, or whatever. She acted like she could care less. Just very pushy, trying to get the scan done, and could care less about my concerns. What it looks like is they have a set way that they do things, and if you need some type of accommodations that go outside of those set parameters, they're not really set up to help you out that much. And this is very unfortunate, especially when you consider the amount of money that's involved in these things. So Lindsey Jones, all right. Now she asked me about my condition, and she wrote down here with a pen and with her hand what I told her, all right. And she signed off on this. So I'm going to present this because later on I got my records from Northside Medical Associates, Complete Health, now owned by Pharaoh's Capital. And my records, they appeared edited. And so I'll put this up here because this is significant. All right, GFR value, right side. I have no idea what that means. My injury is on my left side of my head. Technologist comments, pain severe, right side of neck. And that's not what I told her. My injury's on my left side of my head. Alright, this is significant. Base of skull. Alright, that's my injury. Yeah, other places they wouldn't even acknowledge this. Saint Vincent's East Hospital, for example. And then she writes here, feels like head will fall off. Left arm, limp, and numbness. Okay, so she says left arm. My injury is also on my left side. Twisted neck last year. Can't turn head. Left or right. So you can see here she signed. It says MRI Technologist Lindsey Jones, RT. Saint Vincent's, Trussville. And on the letterhead of one of these records, there's yet another address. There's yet another title associated to a business in this 7201 Happy Hollow Road facility. And I found that almost every time that I saw a business or a medical practice or something to do with a doctor or a nurse, every time the title of the business was written down in this place, it was a different title. They changed the words around, add words, subtract words. Very strange. Almost every time the title of something that operates inside this building is written down in signage or on a piece of paper or in a bill, it's different. And why is this? So on the top of here, there's yet another title. Okay, Northside STV Primary Care East LLC, Trussville, 7201 Happy Hollow Road, 35173. So here's the referral, the imaging order. James Franklin Crumb, NP. And then below this it says Trussville Primary. So there's yet another title for something that operates in this building. Yeah, I received a call shortly after this scan, and I was told that the MRI that I had done, the results came back as negative or normal. So there was no injury that appeared in these MRI images. That's what I was told was the official reading diagnosis. And Frankie Crummy writes here in his record, recent MRI negative. So, I'm sitting there. I'd just been charged $500 for this MRI scan in August 2019. I had to lay in this machine for 20 minutes, very uncomfortable, and I injured myself in the process of doing this. The injury that I had, this was exacerbated. It was made worse by laying in this uncomfortable position. I knew that this injury was a lot more serious than they told me, and I went back and got my records. And here's what I found. The doctor, the radiologist who looked at these pictures, his name is Michael Brant Ruff, MD, and he's a very experienced radiologist that works for Saint Vincent's Hospital, Ascension, Birmingham, Alabama. You can see here on this record it also says copy to Jones Lindsey. Alright, so that's the MRI technician. And it says they did a MRI cervical spine exam. And they should have been looking for things in the soft tissue of my neck. And yeah, there's some really major things that show up there. The main injury that's visible, it's outside of my skull at this point. Beneath my skull, the main evidence of this injury. It's technically in the upper area of my neck. But Michael Brant Ruff, here's his impression. The MRI of the cervical spine is essentially unremarkable without disc protrusion or significant stenosis. And you can read the rest of this, and basically he is saying that he notes there's no injury here. And this is not true. This is misdiagnosed. And the evidence, it's very obvious in the images. Okay? So you have to ignore this erroneous radiologist report. And, it's just very sad. This guy, Michael Brant Ruff, very experienced, very well paid. Guy's a multimillionaire. And he should be able to see this very easily, but he didn't. Alright, so here are the pictures. Alright, this was the main cause for my pain, and this was the main manifestation of this injury at this point. Alright, and this is directly below my skull that was broken. You can see there's massive infection. The infection, it went out into the left side of my head in the jaw area. And Frankie Crumb later, he acknowledged this as mastoiditis. But yeah, it's interesting, something like mastoiditis, this doesn't just appear out of nowhere. So what caused this? And they didn't seem that interested in finding out what causes. All they have to do is look at these pictures and they can see what happened to me. But yeah, I had problems with this as well. So you can see here there's some type of anomaly. It's like a black sphere. And I believe that I had parasites that grew in this area as well at this time. Yeah, and so this injury, yeah, in total, it's about 3 or 4 inches diameter. Alright, so this is a very obvious injury. Yeah, so here's Michael Brant Ruff, his profile page for Vulcan Imaging Associates. Many months passed, and then in March 2020, I went back to Northside Medical Associates because I had continuing pain in this area. I saw Nurse Celeste Richardson. And, when I went in and tried to describe this injury to her, I had printouts from this MRI scan. And most of my visit with her was some kind of argument. Me trying to express to her my injury and the fact that, they had misdiagnosed and missed this previously. And then the whole time she's trying to tell me that there's no proof, no evidence. The pictures were over 6 months old. They didn't count, etc. And this was like so insulting. So I complained to Northside Medical Associates. Somebody there in the office asked to speak to somebody in administration. And I asked to protest these MRI results. So this woman, she went next door, and she told me she'd get a contact for me. She didn't get a contact for me. She told me they would call me in a few days. I was looking for a contact with Saint Vincent's Ambulatory Healthcare Network, Saint Vincent's Trussville. They're located in the MRI portion of this 7201 building. So a few days passed. I never got a call from these people. Also asked for a copy of my medical records from my visits with Frankie James Crumb and Celeste Richardson, in which involved this this MRI misdiagnosis with Michael Brant Ruff, MD. So I was told there in the office that they could not print my records for me that day, and that's a gigantic red flag, because one of the reasons why they would delay handing me my records is the possibility that they may be edited before they reach my hands. And I received these a few days later, and sure enough, there are many evidences of some type of records tampering or editing that were done to my medical records that I requested. It looks like somebody dropped in a disclaimer in here. And then on both Celeste Richardson's records and Frankie James Crumb's records, they went in and they edited this area of the ears. And it reads the exact same on both of their records, and this is the most obvious evidence of records editing, because why would they omit both areas of my left ear in both of these records? It says right external auditory canal, no obstruction, arrhythmia or discharge, normal appearance, right tympanic membrane, pearly gray landmarks clear, left tympanic membrane, pearly gray landmarks clear. So yeah, it reads exactly the same on the in both record sets. And the reason for this is James Crumb, Frankie Crumb, he stuck an instrument in my left ear and it had a light on it. And he told me verbally that he identified swelling, some type of evidence of infection, and this was diagnosed as the mastoiditis. Yeah, this record, this is from August 2019. Well, okay, go back to the MRI pictures. You can look at this and you can see what was behind the swelling area that Frankie Crumb had looked at. Alright, and you can see the infection. It expands out and encompasses some portion of the left side of my head, my jaw area. Sinuses look like they were obstructed. And I don't understand why they felt it necessary to edit my records and remove these details. It doesn't make any sense to me.